Unfortunately, not everyone has taken that choice. So I want to apologize in advance for some of the ugly mail you will probably see come in your mailboxes. I will not make personal attacks, okay? I will respond with the facts and with accurate information, okay? First, let's start with jobs. That is the most important thing on my mind right now. New Mexico, if you look at New Mexico as compared to all our surrounding states, we have enormously high taxes. So we are trying to get new businesses, new corporations, new infusions of money from out of state in New Mexico. So what I did vote for is I voted against a tax increase for businesses. You know, there's a saying that that businesses don't pay taxes, people do, okay? And when we raise taxes on Smith's, Albertsons, Walmart, who pays those taxes? We do. Hence the statement that when you raise taxes on these businesses, when you go to Walmart, when you go to Smith's, when you go to Albertsons, your groceries are going to cost. Okay? There's the logic there. Fact check and rely. The second thing is this discussion about ending some tax cuts, raising taxes again. Okay, the tax cuts that my opponent has advocated ending, so increasing everyone's taxes, aren't just for the rich. It begins on anyone making over $16,000 a year. Okay? People are struggling. I'm not going to vote for a tax increase now, if ever, particularly when in the context of trying to get new businesses to invest in New Mexico when we're already a very tax-heavy state. Okay? The second thing is, with respect to job creation, is regulatory reform. New Mexico is the only state in the nation that doesn't have a Model Administrative Procedures Act. When you go to an agency to get your business license, your permit, whatever it is that you need to operate in the state, you get 20 different answers from 20 different agencies. I carried the legislation in the House of Representatives that would impose a Model Administrative Procedures Act. So each state agency had to abide by the same set of rules. Okay? So when businesses are seeking to relocate here, perfect example is Intel. It took over a year for them to get their air quality permit, the same permit that Arizona got them in months. So if you're a business looking to invest in a state, where are you going to go? The state that has the lower tax rate and the easier regulatory regime. Okay? So that's my solution with respect to jobs. Education. It seems like a no-brainer to me that we don't allow third graders who can't read proficiently to move on to the fourth grade. That coupled with a great deal of intensive remediation and tutoring, so those kids can be brought up to snuff. Okay? There's a reason that 75%, 3 out of 4 of our kids can't read proficiently that are in the fourth grade. The last thing is that is a real passion for me is battling the corruption that exists in the state. And in my mind, that really has an impact on our ability to create jobs and stimulate the economy. When I worked with various businesses, industries, a big problem that they had was the lack of certainty in what they were going to get. They never knew who was going to shake them down. Okay? And so one bill that I was successful in getting enacted, working with numerous Democrats, senators on the other side of the aisle, the Senate version passed, almost identical to mine, was a bill that allows us to go after the pensions of corrupt government officials. Okay, so for example, right now we're paying Manny Aragon state pension. So in the event that a public official is convicted of a felony, we can go after their pension. All right. Now I think the gentleman in the blue shirt, and actually Mary Ellen even framed it better. I mean, do you want to keep the status quo, or do you want to try something new? Okay. The status quo isn't working. New Mexico is, at the bottom of every good list, top of every bad list. So in my mind, we need to try something different. So the question is, do you want to send someone up there who is going to vote for the status quo, vote not to retain, vote to send third graders on to the fourth grade who can't read proficiently, vote to raise taxes so that we don't have a more favorable business environment, and vote with the majority that I would say has failed the people of the state. And, I think you need to look no further than my voting record, what I've accomplished, what I've tried to do to have the answer to that. With respect to, my service to this district, I think I've met many of you, and now 5 times between last election and this that I've walked this entire district. So I think I'm very responsive to Mr. Egan, and we'll continue to be responsive to all of you. But my door is always open. And again, I want to apologize in advance for some of the stuff you're probably going to be getting in your mailboxes. Again, I am accepting no super PAC money. I'm not going to send that garbage. And I apologize in advance for those who questions, please.
I have a question.
Yes.
You know that when it comes to this Affordable Health Care Act, I noticed there's a lot of course, uninsured people here in the state. But do we have the personnel to take care of all these uninsured?
That's a good question. With respect to, the Affordable Care Act, this is one area where I differ from a lot of my colleagues. I think New Mexico needs to take the money. I think we'd be foolish not to. There's some concerns in my mind that, after 2020, what's the state contribution going to be? So long as we get some assurances from the federal government that that's going to continue to be, 10%. Would I have voted for the act in its form if I were a member of the federal legislature? I'm not certain of that, but since it is law, I think we need to take advantage of it. Yes, sir.
Referencing again a political flyer that I received either at my door or through the mail.
Correct.
Your opponent says you voted against legislation that would have reduced property taxes for seniors.
I did. Yes, I did. The bill was, I think, poorly drafted. And, this was legislation that was, right now we're struggling. I'm very wary of parceling out. It's just a broader policy issue for me. When you start reducing property taxes for one group, not another, all of a sudden, and this is something that I think the counties were opposed to because they rely heavily on our property. They rely almost exclusively, I think, weighing on property tax.
50% of our
50%. So once you start opening those floodgates to, taking chunks of what our other governments rely on, I think that, that there could be some very serious repercussions. So,
Thank you.
please, more questions.
Well, I see one of the major problems that we have, and politicians don't talk about it. And I don't mean the word politicians in a negative way. The drug traffic and arms smuggling, from the president, candidates, all the way down. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to talk about it. And I'm not saying that the answer is easy to accomplish that. But nobody seems to, want to talk about it.
I think, related to that issue, and that's a bigger border security federal issue, but I think...
No, it's local. The druggists are here. The addicts are here.
Right.
You see them all over the city. I can take you and show them.
Right. No, one thing that I think puts New Mexico at a great detriment with respect to the battle on drugs and importation of drugs is the fact that we allow people who are here illegally to get driver's licenses. And think of it. If you are here illegally and you can drive, and you have a valid Mexico driver's license, you can drive to Mexico. All right? Whereas if you're a Texas citizen and you don't have a driver's license, you're going to have trouble getting that. Okay? So one thing that I actually debated for 2 hours on the floor of the House trying to get that law repealed. I think it's dangerous. I think it's bad policy. That's another area where my opponent and I would unequivocally, I have voted 3 times to repeal that law. So from a state perspective and a border security perspective and drug trafficking perspective, I think that's
And arms smuggling.
Arms smuggling, absolutely. Human trafficking, a whole host of problems associated.
Well, there's no easy answer, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot of factors involved. The license only one part of it.
So taking part in trying to connection between illegals and drug trafficking is scapegoatism of the worst kind. It's racist and it's totally negative. There's very, very little connection shown between the average illegals who are here, who are basically working class, middle class, poor. And I find that pretty offensive to draw a mean line between drug trafficking.
So is it your assertion then that no drugs come in from Mexico?
And what's the connection that distributing illegal licenses has to that? There's no connection there at all.
Because if you're, for example, let's use this example. If you're bringing drugs into the United States, you can get them in, and if you're illegal,